All right, so today we're going to talk about assuming a VA loan. This has been a hot topic of conversation. It's something that we've been covering for the better part of the last 2 years. While rates have been where they are, a lot of people, a lot of veterans got very low interest rates during the all-time lows, and now they are looking to move on. They're PCSing to a new duty station or whatever is happening in their lives, and these loans are available to be assumed. Now, a couple things that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about some best practices on how to make a VA loan assumption work. We're going to talk about who can assume a VA loan, and then we're also going to talk about maybe some of the things that you need to consider if you are the veteran with a VA loan that you're going to allow somebody else to assume. So first of all, anyone who qualifies to repay that loan can assume a VA loan. You do not have to be a veteran. Now, as the veteran allowing somebody to assume your VA loan, you have to understand a couple things. One, if the person assuming your VA loan is not a veteran, you do not get your entitlement back if they take over that loan. Your entitlement stays charged onto that property until they sell or refinance that home. If you are moving and you don't have any use for your VA home loan, or you don't need your VA home loan to buy your next place, or maybe you still qualify for a second VA home loan, that can be just fine. But just know that is how it's going to work if a non-veteran assumes your VA home loan benefit. If it is a qualifying veteran that has qualifying entitlement, I'm a veteran and I have access to a VA home loan, I can swap my entitlement for yours and assume that rate and those terms. Now, that is in the next piece we're going to talk about. You are assuming that rate and those terms. You are not getting a loan modification, meaning if the VA home loan is for $500,000, and the home is selling for $700,000, there is a $200,000 gap between the loan that you're assuming and the desired sale price that the seller is expecting to net. That $200,000 must be brought in as down payment. It is not augmenting or modifying the existing loan to accommodate what your new purchase price is. You are assuming that loan at its face value. That number that has to come in over and above the loan amount must be down payment. Now, if you don't have access to that down payment, there is a way for you to get a second mortgage if you qualify to bridge a majority of that gap. There are second mortgages available for as little as 5 or 10% down. So you're bringing in much less cash, only being responsible for 5 to 10% down. The difference between 5 or 10% down in many cases is your own individual qualification, and then your scenario, and then what's available as far as the loan size that you might need. How big is that second have to be to get you to make that seller whole so that you can assume their loan and get a second mortgage for the remaining balance. So there's a couple things that you need to consider. I'm going to say reach out to us, reach out to your mortgage professional, and figure out which one of those would work for you if you do need to obtain a second, and then you can go from there. Now, moving into best practices if you want to get a VA home loan assumption to work. It is not automatic. It is not really an easy process. I don't want to scare anybody and say it's difficult, but there's definitely some things to consider because this is a customer service measure for the person that holds that current VA loan. So if XYZ Mortgage Servicing is the person that veteran and that seller makes payments to, XYZ Mortgage Servicing is the one who's going to process that loan assumption. It's not going to be me, the mortgage lender, or whoever it is that you are working with. It's going to be that existing mortgage servicer, the one that has the loan now. And it is an antiquated process. Pretty much every one that we've seen and we've gone through, it is a giant pain in the ass. They're going to send you a paper package. They're going to send a paper package to the seller. When they notify them that they want to process a loan assumption, they're going to fill some things out. They're going to send it back. They're going to send the buyer a paper package they have to hand fill out and send back, and then once it makes it into their queue, they're going to process it at their leisure in most cases. When these really got popular, they were taking sometimes 3 and 4 months. Right now I'm hearing more like 45 to 90 days depending on the servicer, and you have to understand this is not new business for them. This is a customer service member that customer service measure that they are contractually obligated to complete. So it's not like they're getting a new loan on their books. In fact, they're keeping a really low interest loan on their books when they're actually processing things at a higher interest rate that make them more money. And sometimes there's literally one person at that company that's going through and approving and processing these. So don't expect it to be quick. So when we get into best practices, if you are representing a buyer or you're a buyer yourself and you know that this is something you want to explore, or maybe you've seen in the listing, it says VA home loan, possible assumption opportunity or something like that. In a lot of cases, they're marketing this now as a selling point on the property. You want to make sure that you set yourself up for success and you set the right expectations for the seller. So having your agent, or if you're representing yourself, that's a whole nother topic we can do on another video, but if your agent goes and tells the seller, hey, we want to assume the loan, here's what we've experienced, here's what we think we can expect, who's the mortgage servicer, let's make a phone call and figure out how long this is actually taking. Let's figure out exactly what their internal process is so we can communicate that to the seller up front, and we're going to have a better opportunity to get them to agree to the terms if we know what we're talking about and our details are dialed in. So that's one thing. The other thing that you can do to give yourself the best opportunity is understand how the benefit is going to work for the seller. Are you a veteran? Do you have qualifying entitlement? Are you a civilian that's going to be taking over this loan, and making sure that you communicate that piece to the seller upfront as well. Just because they're selling a home and they've written it into the listing that there is a loan that can be assumed does not mean they know how it works. So you want to make sure that you communicate that, because you want your offer to get reviewed. You want to seem like you have all your details squared away, and you want to give the seller the best information and the best opportunity to accept your offer and allow you to assume that loan. Because at the end of the day, even with rates coming down or coming down in the future, that rate, depending on when they got it, is likely still going to be something that is not on the board in the regular market because of those all-time lows. So you really want to make sure that you stack the deck in your favor so you have the best opportunity to take advantage. So we've talked about some of the things to be aware of if you're the seller and a veteran, and we've talked about how to position yourself and how the process is going to work. We've talked a little bit through the timeline and some of the best practices to help get your offer accepted. Now there's more that we can unpack, because every transaction is different. Every transaction is like a fingerprint, so there may be some things that are different for you specifically, but this big picture is going to give you a really good cheat sheet on how to approach a loan assumption and how to make it work. If you have questions, reach out to us at the information below. We're happy to talk you through it. We help hundreds of veteran families a year through the home loan process and through the home buying process, and we'd be glad to give you the best possible information to help you win on your next purchase.